Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. How is everybody today? Welcome to Center for Practical Spirituality, where we get you started so that you can have an absolutely phenomenal week and just make it a great weekend and day. So let's go ahead and get started with our statement of being. God is all, both visible and invisible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. And so it is. And so it is. So today's topic is going to be under embrace. Embrace and be embraced. And if we really think about it, embracing goes even further than just the physical act of hugging. Why? Because what are we if we're not energy? We're energy, kind of going through life. And one of the things that I went ahead and pointed out to the congregation earlier today in reference to our energy is when we walk into a room, what actually gets there before our physical body? Our energy. And so, there is so much to say whenever we are consciously remembering that we are, as we go through life, we are energy. And our energy arrives even before we do. So make sure that your energy is good and it's positive. So let's go ahead and get started here. I had embraced you long before I hugged you. And that's it's from a poem called 1,000 Flamingos. When love's activity is no longer confined to the littleness that resists but extends to everything and everyone, then shall we hear its song sung throughout the circuits of our lives. When love's activity is no longer confined to the littleness that restricts but extends to everything and everyone, then shall we hear its song sung throughout the circuits of our lives. Ernest Holmes, The Spiritual Universe and You. Our invitation right now is going to be to embrace the what, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. Because right now, what we are starting to recognize is that the ugly, that is showing up, it is so that we will actually make a decision. Do we want to continue on this path, or are we going to change it? And are we going to repeat it, or are we never going to repeat it again? And that is the invitation of life. When we can see the red flags, identify them whenever they show up again, because they'll show up, we may think, oh, we've slam dunked this one. And then all of a sudden, that boyfriend or that girlfriend of yesteryear shows up, and you either have mastered it or you fall straight into that pattern. And then all of a sudden you're just like, why didn't I see it? And the reason is because you still hadn't learned the lesson. So just as a FYI. We can easily look up the definition of embrace. Know it means to accept, to hug, to hold, enclose, envelop something, whether it's an idea or an opportunity or a person, willingly or enthusiastically. When you are embraced by someone you love, when someone you love embraces you, what does it feel like deep inside your soul? When a pet in its own way embraces you, what is the feeling at the core of your being? I mean, our eyes are the windows to your soul. So, today, whenever I had an opportunity to talk to one of my patients, I was looking into his eyes, and I was looking into the window of his soul, and I could tell that he was just, his soul is so ready to just be at peace. And I'm talking about a peace that passes understanding, most definitely. To embrace and be embraced is more than just hugging. It is experiential oneness. Sorry, my brain just went somewhere else. Experiential oneness. It is the feeling of being at home, God with God, love with love. So let's talk about that. You know, many times, instead of saying the word God to people, you can say, you know, have you ever felt love? Have you ever really, truly felt love? And then at that point, you know, God is love, and love is what? God. And so many times, you know, the atheist, you know, or the agnostic, you know, you talk to them and you don't want to say or mention the word God, you know, because it's kind of like they don't usually say that word, you know. But if you talk about love, hey, what did you love to do? What do you love to, you know, kind of experience? And, you know, whenever you love something and that you love doing whatever it is that you're doing, you are living and on your life's purpose, by the way. When you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Not a day in your life. Because you're having too much fun and because you love what you're doing. So please remember that love is another way of being able to communicate with your brothers and your sisters. Many times we try to force our own way of living or being or doing things, you know, because we want for people to come and fit in our boxes. No. You know, I neither this, you know, whenever I talk with my patients or whenever I talk with my, you know, other parishioners, you know, wherever I may be at, I am not, you know, bringing myself down. I'm not taking myself up. In other words, elevate. No, I am meeting them exactly where they are at. And that is a gift all in its own, by the way. When you can meet people exactly where they're at and not judge and just be, you know, and kind of understand, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to understand, I'm going to embrace, but we still stand firm for justice, by the way. It's a very fine line. Very fine line. Today we begin our exploration of embracing possibilities, and for now, I invite you to consider all the ways we embrace and are embraced by the magnificence of this thing called life. Does your morning cup of tea or coffee embrace you? I know it embraces me whenever I get up and I'm like, I'm drinking my Thrive and I'm doing, it's kind of like, and I'm just like, all of a sudden it's kind of like, as I've taken my 2 pills on an empty stomach and I do my lifestyle mix and then I put on my DFT and later on during the day I put in that little thing under my tongue, and you know, it's kind of like, it's a process, right? But it's a one and done kind of thing. But I really feel embraced by rejuvenation, by vitality, by thriving and not just surviving. And so therefore, instead of a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or a cup, you know, it's water and it's my multivitamins, and all of a sudden it's kind of like, as I take that drink of that wonderful warm water, I'm like going, oh, wow. The gift of being able to just be in the present moment now. Just being, not doing, no. Being, because we are human beings, not humans doing. Please remember that. It took me many years to finally understand to be a human being and not be a human doing, okay? And that's a gift also in its own. So let's go ahead and go back to this. Do you embrace the meal that nourishes you, offering gratitude for all the people who made it possible? You know, right before you start eating, or even let's say that you've taken a bite, you know, just say thank you, God, for this, you know, or thank you, infinite intelligence, or thank you, creator of all, for this wonderful food that we're all about to partake in. Thank you. And if it's just you, thank you for this food that I am about to nourish my body with. Thank you for all of those that prepared it and continue to bless one and all. I'm in gratitude. This afternoon, because it wasn't this morning, this afternoon, I was pleasantly surprised with the divine surprise. And it was like, oh my gosh, and I was just like, wow. And, because of the fact that there was synchronicity of sorts, all of a sudden, it's kind of like I was blessed beyond measure. I mean, really beyond measure, so in being in that gratitude, I was like, thank you. And when you are in thanksgiving, that attitude of gratitude, what are you grateful for? 5 things before you go to sleep. What are you grateful for? Because I know this. I'm grateful for my eyesight, even if I have to wear my little glasses. But I love my glasses, by the way. I am grateful for my hearing because there were times that I actually had infections. I mean, to the point that I was in tears. I am so grateful for my voice. Because that means that I get to teach and preach and talk and laugh. And, I am so thankful for my fingers. Because there's been some days where, it's kind of like I have injured my fingers because of the fact that I was doing all of these projects. And then by the time I know it, I'm like, But now, it's kind of like, I thank God that I'm able to still bend, that I'm able to, squat, that I'm able to, stretch, that I'm able, all of these little things, that I have a beating heart, that I have, kidneys that are still functioning at 60%, whatever that number is, liver that is just functioning, taking care of, and, getting rid of the toxins, a pancreas. You want to be thankful for your whole entire millionaire body. Because when you are embraced by the divine, you are the divine in action. Please remember that. So here, it says, music, art, prayer, dance, theater, poetry, and so much more swirls around us daily in countless ways. They are right here to embrace our bodies, minds, hearts, and souls, to invite us into a space of full embodying the divine, the ultimate embrace. As Ernest Holmes puts it, how important is it that each one of us in our own simple way shall live from God to God, with God, in God, and to each other. Our truth today and always is, I am the holy embrace of the universe. I am the holy embrace of the universe. I am the holy embrace of the universe, from God to God, with God, in God, and to each other. What does God to God mean? Well, when you go look in the mirror, God is looking straight at you. How about that? When you go to the mirror, when you see even the heinous of all heinouses, God is still looking at you. Now, I know I'll probably get some, somebody hit me upside the head with that one. That's fine. I understand. But the guy who murdered my husband, God is still in him. God is still going through him. God is still, an expression. See, this earth is duality. It is up to you, and we have the free will, and we have the power to choose how we're going to see the events that happen in our lives. Right now, the events are, for some it's going to be atrocious. For some it's going to be, just kind of craziness. Some people are going to say, oh, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. When you just see it and you allow yourself to understand, to be in the moment now, all of a sudden you will see a truth revealing itself. Okay, yes, Justin.
Yeah, love of unconditional love must allow for the negative.
Unconditional love, so let me remind you guys. I'm going to go to the time that Jesus was being incarcerated. Okay, he was being picked up by the guys, and one of the apostles, what did he do? He took out his dagger and cut one of the soldiers' ears off. And what did Jesus do? Went and put his hands right on him and just, cured him right there and then, according to the story. And so Jesus looked at him and said, no, don't do that. Don't do that. No, that is not the objective. In the story of Mary Magdalene, she comes to Peter. It's a new rendition, but she comes to Peter and she says to Peter, it is about love. That's what Jesus is about. That's what Gandhi was about. That's what Martin Luther King was about. That's what Dorothy Day is about. That's what Oscar Romeo was about. These are all people who made a difference in this world. That's what Buddha is about. Right now we have our monks walking, not just talking the talk. They are walking the walk. They embraced us before we even knew who they were. They embraced us and they were advocating for our peace that passes understanding before they even started walking. They embraced and they said, peace be still. We're going to be peace. What are we focusing on? See, Mother Teresa, when she was invited to an anti-war rally, she went ahead and she declined. And what did she tell them? Whenever you have a peace rally, I'll attend. Because that anti-war was focusing on what? Was focusing on war. And we are not going to be doing the anti-war thing. We're not going to be focusing on war. You have to be impeccable with your words. So whenever there was a peace talk, whenever there was a peace rally, guess what? She showed up. Now, whether she did or she didn't, I don't remember. But at that point, notice that it's a peace rally. Notice it's a peace walk. Notice that it's about peace. Be still. It is about being and leaving. This is our lover right here, by the way. Right here, this is our lover. Okay? Right here. This phone, right here. This is our lover. Leave the darn lover in another room. Disconnect. Don't take your lover to the bathroom. She or he, because depending on, she or he can stay, in the other room. Leave it on the charger, disconnect. It's okay to disconnect and to be connected to who? Unconditional love. So there have been times, whenever I have disconnected from what we call the lover. I go to my bedroom because that's where I put my phone. Usually it's in my bedroom. And I'm outside, I'm with the dogs, I'm in the front room, I'm at the kitchen, I'm in my little office, I'm everywhere except what? With the phone. So I come to my phone because I'm ready to go to sleep and ready to, go to bed. I come to the phone and I look at it and I don't even know how many missed calls, how many missed texts, how many, I'm like, oopsie. But what I did was I reconnected with my dogs. I reconnected with my home. I reconnected with those things that nurture my soul. To embrace and to be embraced, it also is an invitation to embrace and to look within. Where does peace begin? Inside. It's an inside journey. And when we're not at peace, that's when you need to say, okay, time out. And people are going like, time out. Where are you going? I'm going to go and be peace. And that, my brothers and sisters, even whenever, you can be in the middle of chaos and you are the what? The peace be still. That's exactly what we were taught. Our invitation of embracing or being embraced is to understand that peace begins within. It's not an outside job. There's a saying that, well, as soon as I am, let me see if I can find it, because I always kind of get a little mixed up. Hold on, let me find it. Take a few seconds here, just a minute. Hold on, because it's a really good little saying. I'm praying I can find it very quickly here, because one of the things that's stated is that many times what we do, now that's a disguise, is we think to ourselves, oh, here it is. Once everything falls into place, I'll feel peace. That's the ego. Because Spirit says, find your peace. Find your peace. And then everything will fall into place. Marianne Williamson. It's a true statement. You know, I mean, once everything falls into place, I'll feel peace. No, I won't. No, you won't. No, You have to find peace within, and then everything else in the outer will start falling into place. So when you find peace, when you can conceive it in the mind, feel it in the heart, and then achieve it because you take right action, then you'll be able to open your hands and receive what you saw in your mind in the first place. Where does everything begin if it's not in the imagination? If you can imagine it, you can do it. That was Walt Disney. More importantly, the word impossible, what do you have to put? Impossible. How do you convert it from impossible to impossible? What do you have to put? An apostrophe. Punctuation matters, ladies and gentlemen. By the way. So do not, don't ever underestimate, punctuation. It truly does make a difference. It goes from impossible to I'm possible whenever you put that little line in between the I and the M, which is called once again, an apostrophe. I do anticipate that today's wonderful Uplifting the Soul service has helped one way or another, has enlightened, has given you a different way of seeing and experiencing you, because you are in the likeness and also in the expression of God. Our affirmation for the week. I am the holy embrace of the universe, from God to God, with God and in God, and to each other. And so it is. And so it is. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to go ahead and have your tithes and your offerings, as well as your prayer requests. And, hold on. I'm going to try to grab something here. Oh, it's okay. Well, we'll just go ahead and grab this. Here we go. So let us go ahead and hold our tithes. If you have any specific prayer requests, please remember to go ahead and put them into the thread, or you can message me, and we will be putting it into our prayer request, and it's going to be done. If it is yours by birthright, divine right, and it's for your very best and highest good, it will get done easily and effortlessly. So let us go ahead and hold those tithes, offerings, and prayer requests, and say together, divine love in me, as me, and through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. And so it is. Ladies and gentlemen, in a few weeks, we're going to be celebrating our 19th year of being in existence. And so we're looking at the 15th of February. So if you'd like to actually join us here at Center for Practical Spirituality. We're at First Unitarian Universalist Church in building number 5. And I invite one and all to be here on that particular Sunday, because we're going to go ahead and have some celebration, some wonderful time. Of course, we'll go ahead and still do the Facebook Live, and I so look forward to seeing you on that day. So at this moment, thank you so very much for all being here, and we're going to go ahead and get started with I'm ready for a miracle. I'm ready for a miracle. I'm ready for a miracle today. I've got my mind in tune for one. I'm ready to experience one. I'm ready for a miracle today. My mind is open, ready to receive it. My heart is opened all the way. I do accept a miracle. I do accept a miracle. I do accept a miracle today. I do receive a miracle. I do receive a miracle. I do receive a miracle today. Very good, very good. Yay! I love you. We'll see each other next week. Bye.